Hey tennis ballers, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the last racket that I've yet to review of Babolat's 2019 lineup, the Babolat Pure Drive VS. And if you haven't already seen my reviews of the strike and the arrow, you can find links to those videos below in the description box. So don't forget to check those out after you watch the review of the Babolat Pure Drive. So to be perfectly honest, I had no idea what to expect with this racket. I had played with an older version of the strike through juniors and college, and I knew that the arrow was geared towards players who hit with a lot of spin, but I didn't really know what to expect from this racket. So I did a little digging before I tried this racket and was happily surprised. You know, a lot of professional female players use this racket, so there must be something good about it. The question is, what? So this Babolat Pure Drive I strung with Babolat's Pro Hurricane string at 52 pounds, as I did with all the other rackets in Babolat's lineup to compare them equally. But some other specs about this racket that you may not have already known is it has a 98 square inch head. It's around 11.2 ounces strung or 10.6 ounces unstrung. And in comparison to the Pure Strike, I felt like this racket was a little bit lighter, but heavier than the Pure Arrow. So that was definitely something I want to keep in mind. I would assume that this would allow me to add spin a little bit easier than the Pure Strike, but not as easy as the Pure Arrow. The Pure Drive is also known for giving players more power and even better precision. So I'm really excited to give this racket a try. So now that my racket's completely strung, I can finally get into the review. So after hitting down the center, time for some forehand cross courts. And listen, I was a little nervous to test this racket out on my forehand side. Power isn't something that I'm necessarily looking for in a racket. You know, granted, I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking for, but I know power isn't something that is like an end-all be-all for me. But regardless, I was, still concerned that this racket I would definitely be overhitting some balls. And you know what, that's definitely what happened at first. But let's be real here. We're playing indoors, so no elements affect the ball. And therefore, the ball's coming off my partner's racket and my racket quicker. So that's great, for when I hit the ball, but not so great when my partner gets a really good connect with the ball. So fair enough. I felt like my flat shots were more powerful than any of the previous rackets that I've tried so far. So that's definitely a big plus. However, it definitely took me some time to find my range when it came to adding more topspin or hitting high balls with this racket. Anytime I was out of position, hitting cross court, I feel like my balls landed, on average a little bit shorter than I would have liked. But on all, I really like the way this racket felt on my forehand side, and I'm happy about the little bit of natural power boost that I got with it. And thankfully, tops and backhands were really smooth as well. It took, a little bit of time for me to get used to going cross court, finding my depth and my range on this side, but once I found it, it felt so natural to hit on this side. I felt like I could absorb pace really well, and for whatever reason, a lot of my balls, I was able to return deeper than usual. Kudos to the power, and definitely not a bad thing for someone who tends to hit a decent amount of open stance backhands, if not off my back foot. And no complaints with hitting with spin. Topspin was relatively easily generated, not as easy as I would say the Babolat Pure Arrow was, but still felt pretty reasonable. But the one place I did struggle with was with my slice. For whatever reason, it kept clipping the net, which isn't too surprising because typically I am able to keep my slices pretty low, but maybe this day was just an off day. And for someone with a one-handed backhand, a slice is crucial and something that I rely heavily on when I'm in defensive situations. So I wasn't super thrilled that this racket couldn't help me get it together on the slice. So I know I could probably figure it out, but I guess I was a little annoyed that my slice didn't come super easy. On to volleys and overhead. So if you've seen my other videos, you'll know that I typically play on the baseline during matches, and I don't spend a ton of time at the net. I'm much more comfortable, like I said, at the baseline. So it's really hard for me to judge a racket on how quote-unquote good it feels at the net, but something that I noticed big time while I was hitting volleys with this racket was the amount of vibration I felt when it came to hitting volleys. It literally made me question why in the world I didn't notice this when I was hitting from the baseline. But regardless, for every single volley, not only did it sound like there wasn't a ton of vibration dampening, but I could literally feel it in my arm. Gratefully, it didn't hurt or anything, but it was something that I felt like I should speak up on and maybe do some digging into why this is happening. I looked on Tennisbyaeriel's website, and they even mentioned in their review that it isn't as stable as traditionally weighted players' rackets. So maybe that's what I'm feeling. Regardless, it felt okay hitting volleys. I struggled to kind of find my timing during this recording, not necessarily a reflection of the racket. And so these volleys are a little sporadic, but overall I'd say the volleys were just okay. But luckily, overheads felt amazing, really, really smooth. So now my overall thoughts about the Babolat Pure Strike VS. So I want to rate this racket in 5 specific categories: power, spin, control, maneuverability, dampening, and style. Each category can give the racket up to 5 points, except for style. That's more like a bonus, and that's only worth 1 point. So onto the first category, that's power. This racket definitely gets a 5 out of 5, no questions asked. Anytime that I stepped into the ball to take a really solid swing at it, just wow. And even though it was a little wild at times, I feel like I was in control and could really almost effortlessly put my opponent on defense, assuming I was in good position and all that. And even when I was out of position, I felt like I could still gain a lot of power on my ball, definitely helping me transition, from a defensive situation into neutral, or even sometimes from a defensive situation to offensive, when I can. I don't feel like there's too much to say about this section. This racket has a ton of power, and that's definitely undisputed. Next is spin. And to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this racket when it comes to spin. Like I mentioned earlier on with my forehand cross courts, when I was trying to add more topspin, my balls landed, on average, a little bit shorter than I was used to, and I really struggled with my slice on my backhand side. So it's not like those types of shots aren't doable with this racket, but it definitely didn't enhance my spin like I would have liked to seen. And even on my serves, the racket felt good and all, but my slice serve wasn't spectacular, and my kicks weren't any more kicky. All the serves felt solid and consistent, but nothing to write home about. Plus, remember at the time I'm recording this video, this racket is, on sale for $249 at tenniswarehouse.com. I want this racket to be basically perfect for the amount of money that I'm going to have to spend on this. And you know what? This racket just came up a little bit short in the spin department. So I'm going to have to give this racket a 3 out of 5 on spin. As far as control is concerned, I don't think that I struggled with control very much with this racket. I was able to hit my targets as long as I didn't overhit with all that extra power, and I felt like the racket did do a good job at responding well to doing what I asked it to do. For instance, even though in the previous section I said that I wasn't thrilled about where my ball landed with a lot of spin, that doesn't mean the racket didn't put a ton of spin on the ball. I just missed. So for now, I will just give this racket a 4 out of 5. Definitely a solid option in the control department. Next is maneuverability, and this racket is definitely good at it. It didn't feel heavy to me, so I think that's another reason why I'm able to get some good power behind a lot of my balls. Racket head speed isn't tough either, so I'm going to give the racket a 5 out of 5 for this section, just because I really had no problem at all at getting the racket to do what I wanted to do. Unfortunately for vibration control, this racket did not do what I wanted it to do. In the video coming up in a few days, I'll be able to better judge this section with this racket, but because of all that vibration I felt with hitting volleys, I don't think this racket does a great job with vibration dampening at all. And it would be really interesting to see if I have that same issue when analyzing my point play. I guess one positive thing about all that vibration was that I could really feel when I hit a solid volley or serve. But that's not worth the vibration, and maybe for some others, the pain would come with that. So for vibration dampening and control, I'm going to give this racket a 3 out of 5. And last, but certainly not least, is the bonus point for style. And to be perfectly honest, I wasn't sure which way I was going to go with this point. I don't hate the racket color combo, but it isn't my favorite either. I think I would have preferred a more matte finish like the strike or the arrow, but it doesn't look that bad. And since you either get this point or you don't, all right, I'll go ahead and give this racket the point. I would feel decently confident walking out on the court with a racket that looked like this, so, it deserves a point for that reason alone. So if I tally up all the points here, this racket gets a 21 out of 25 possible points. I decided to just make the bonus point for style just that, a bonus point. That adds to your overall score instead of doing 26 out of 26 points. So a solid racket for sure. It'll be interesting to see how this racket plays during point play when I'm a little more ambitious with my power, flowing back and forth between hitting with and without spin and playing against someone who's really good. Look forward to that video in the next few days. All right, tennis ballers, and that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching this, and let me know in the comments below what you thought about the review, and tell me if you've tried this racket and, did you like it or not? Let me know about any other rackets that you recommend I try in the near future. I would love, love, love to hear your thoughts. And And of course, if you haven't already, please just give this video a like. Subscribe to my channel for more reviews on tennis rackets, some point play action, and other things related to tennis. And until the next one, happy hitting.